What is going on, everybody? My name is Nico. Welcome back to the Enter the Chat Gaming, the podcast. I am here today with my co-host Rico, as always, and we are here to talk about all things video games. What's up, Rico? What are you looking for?
I don't know, I just feel lost.
But we're here to talk video games. Little housekeeping. We are on most podcasting services, just not Apple Podcasts because they hate us. And then we are also on YouTube in a video format. This week on the YouTube channel, what did we even do? I know there's some stuff. We did some stuff.
Let's see. There was the bonus podcast we did for the PlayStation Showcase. Was it
predictions video for the showcase?
Yep, predictions video for
and
the
then
showcase.
Also, we did the Fortnite event yesterday.
The Fortnite
event is up on the channel.
And
that is all available
for
what
else.
Viewing pleasure. That's all we had. That's all. I just pulled it up.
Yeah. Right.
But it's all up on the YouTube channel for your viewing pleasure. We do weekly gaming content as well as the weekly podcast up on there. Rico, what have you been playing? I know we just talked on, what was it, Thursday for the showcase?
Yeah.
But we didn't really talk anything but the showcase because our hype level was too great for anything else. So,
yeah,
what have you been playing?
So, really, it's just been two games. One, still been playing a lot of Modern Warfare. There's just that bug has bit me good to where I just can't stop playing it every so often now. But then also a game that came out, I think it was, I want to say last Thursday or Tuesday, somewhere in that time, sometime last week, I can't remember. Fish Forged and Shadow Torch, that new PlayStation indie game that recently came out, where you're a rabbit with a giant fist on its back, and it's honestly not a bad action platformer. Really, kind of gives it kind of reminds me of some older PS2 era or mainly PS2 era action platformers. Main one that comes to mind is some of the Mega Man X games. It kind of reminds me of those.
Gotcha. Oh God, what have I been playing this week? I feel like this week's been a blur. Still been rocking some Final Fantasy. Enjoying that quite a bit. Final Fantasy 14 is been nice. It's comfort food. It really is comfort food. It's just a real fun MMORPG. I've honestly been playing it by myself. I turn a stream on and I just play and do the main story missions, and I'm having a really good time with it. I'm at a weird point with it, though, where there's so much coming out that I don't know if I want to keep paying the monthly subscription right now, because Deathloop comes out tomorrow. Well, today, the time this podcast goes up. But Deathloop's tomorrow, and then there's just so many games coming that I'm do I really want to justify paying the $15 when I'll be playing everything else under the sun right now? So I might hold off on that one for a while. But I definitely will come back to it because I'm having a really good time with it. What else? Apex. Still playing Apex. Having a good time. Pokemon Unite. I actually set up an overlay for my stream, and I was streaming Pokemon Unite the other day just because I was if I'm going to sit here and just grind Pokemon stuff, I might as well be recording it or streaming it to some capacity because that's my jam on the main channel. So with streaming Pokemon Unite, I'm really trying to hit Ultra. I don't think I'll be able to hit the Master tier simply because the way it works is I don't know how long the season is, because it says the first half ends in a couple days. I think it ends the same day that the new that the mobile version comes out. So I don't know if my rank goes back to a lower level when that happens at the first half, or if just a new battle pass comes out. So I'm really lost on that front. But if the season doesn't reset, I can definitely hit Masters. I've got a feeling.
Hard to say, because the only thing I'm trying to compare it to is stuff like Overwatch, where you do get reset every season, but you do placement matches, so you could get placed differently every season depending on how you do. Yeah, I don't know how their placement works. I think you just get put in the lowest rank and work your way up in Unite. Is that right?
That's how it was the first time around. I just don't know what they're gonna do. It's so early to know anything for sure. But yeah, I'm grinding in that. I would like to hit Ultra tier before it ends, regardless, because then you get more rewards at the end of the season. So I'll probably be doing that a little bit later here. And then what else? Good lord. I did boot up my PlayStation 5 for the first time in a while. I've been running some Ghost of Tsushima PS5 edition.
Good boy.
Because after the showcase, I was like, I gotta get through some backlog. I gotta get through some stuff. So I've been chipping away at that slowly but surely. This is my issue. I play so much. Pokemon Go. Still playing Pokemon Go. I think that's just a given. And then the big one that I've been playing a lot of, like I really dove back in heavy on Xbox, is Dead by Daylight.
Fair.
And good lord, is that so good.
I can think of why we're on the cusp of spooky season.
Yeah, we're right on spooky season, and then it's such a casual game. Like most of the streamers I watch play, Dead by Daylight. Like I watch a couple smaller streamers, and that's like exclusively what they play because it's such an easy game to follow. And my girlfriend really likes it too, but I used to play it a lot on other platforms, so I hop back in, and I am really having a good time. Because it's just like it's so mindless. I just hop in, play, and then it's like there's no real competitive scene, so I don't feel. And there's no like voice chat. That's the thing. There's no voice chat. There's no text chat. So unless somebody messages me directly on Xbox, I never have to hear from upset teammates or anybody at all, and it's fantastic.
Right. Although it does make it better, like when you're playing with friends and then you have voice chat on, because then you get to hear everybody freak out and talk shit.
Oh, 100%, 100%. But I'm saying like with the like randoms I'm playing with, yeah, it's
right.
But they just released a new killer, Pinhead, pretty cool.
Yep.
From Hellraiser, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And that's pretty neat. But yeah, I've been playing that quite a bit, and I've gotten a couple of the guys I play Xbox with to hop in because it is on Game Pass, so they were willing to download it and hop in, and it's hitting in the spot, and I might be playing it quite a bit here in the future. But yeah, I've been playing a little bit of everything. Tomorrow, I'm hopping in. I'm hopping in hard on Deathloop. I'm going in. It's getting fantastic reviews. It's getting so many good reviews. I'm very excited. But
I'm hearing that like the trailers and promotion they did for it don't do the game justice, because like how pretty much every trailer and we've gotten for Deathloop has been like like max action, guns a-blazing, all showing you all the abilities and guns you can use and everything. Yeah. But apparently there's a lot more to the game, like just going in guns a-blazing through space. There's like a lot of like plotting and like investigating stuff for like planning your run to try and take out all the targets.
Yeah, so it sounds really cool. I was listening to a podcast about it today actually, and they were saying stuff like you can really pick your play style by changing up the abilities or how you approach all the situations. Like you can go in guns blazing, or you can go in stealthily, and the whole Juliana aspect really shakes things up on each of the levels. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know about you. I'm hopping in deep because I think next week on the podcast we just need to talk about Deathloop. Like we just need to review Deathloop.
Yeah.
So I'm going hard. That might be like one of the big things, like one of the only things I play over the next week outside of like Pokemon and all the normal stuff. But yeah, I'm very keen. I'm picking it up as soon as I get off work tomorrow. Obviously I got to come home and study first, but then boom, on to Deathloop, and I'm going to be grinding.
Yeah, I'm going to be hopping into that as soon as I get my hands on it, and then be playing that for probably the rest of the week. And then come next week, I'll be busy with another game. This will be more for me. You already said you're not interested, but then Kneeckoh, Bridge of Spirits comes out next week, and I've been looking forward to that. So Broketober is revving up.
Oh yeah, it really is. It really is starting to rev up here. Another thing, we both have played this, okay? Fortnite. We talked about it. We said that the gameplay. The problem is we uploaded the gameplay of the final event because I guess Fortnite's like party chat audio is locked out if you're recording on a capture card. So none of our audio came through when I recorded. Which is such
a shame.
It's such a shame because it was a really cool event. Like there was a whole story, and like you got turned on by like the main character the whole season, and like it was awesome. And then they kind of left it on a cliffhanger, and the new season came out today. You actually played the new season?
I dove in for just like one singles match, just to go out to see like what happened to the map and everything. And I'm seeing like there's queues in places, wreck ship parts everywhere, and then those like weird like alternate dimension areas that have fucking crystal demons spawning with. You can get these like crystallized weapons and everything, and those shadow cube things are back. That you take them and you basically turn into a shadow wraith.
Yeah. Those were in like chapter 1, season 5, I want to say. Like it was a while ago when those were in the game.
That was basically around the time when like Kevin was first like originally around.
Yes, yeah.
And now all of Kevin's brothers and sisters have joined.
Yeah, it was. This new season's really cool because it does definitely lean into the spooky season aspect. Like Carnage is our tier 100 skin, and that looks really spooky. And I'm hoping because this is centered around Halloween, we get some other like licensed Halloween related skins. Like maybe get Jason Voorhees, we get Freddy, we'll get Michael Myers. Give us some horror kind of characters. I would be down for that.
Right.
They would get my money if they put Michael Myers in the game.
Oh yeah, same. Yeah, it'd probably be Mike Myers. I know Jason Voorhees might be unlikely because I know there's some trickiness with his
there's some
with his
weird stuff
licensing
with his,
from.
yeah.
So he would probably be like the least likely, but the others I'd say like hell yeah for.
Yeah, but they changed up the questing again, and I really like it. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit because Reagan and I played for quite a bit. We played, I think like 5 or 6 games. We got a dub. We got the new umbrella, which is pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah.
But they changed the quests where now you have to, like, how they had the NPCs in the previous seasons that you could go talk to, and they give you like goofy quests that nobody ever did. Yeah, they centered the new quests around that to get experience. So you go and you talk to one of the NPCs and they give you a quest line. So then you do the first stage and then it goes through like the stage quests, and you can only have X amount at a time. But the nice thing is they took that where you have to go talk to them, which is fine. It doesn't bug me that I got to go talk to the NPCs because it's cool that they're incorporating the characters in a way that's more meaningful.
Yeah.
But now you have party quests. So if you have a quest that you're doing, your party members get that in their quest log as well, and you can work on it as a group rather than it being like, oh, I'm way ahead of you in the battle pass and I'm doing this stage of a quest, but you can't do it because you're way behind. Now we can all work together on the same quests and all get the experience for it, which I think is a much, much better system than what was in the previously.
Yeah, that's definitely sounds like a better like quality of life improvement.
And it was a lot more fun because it was like, okay, Reagan, we got a quest from some person that was like, ping a small potions, ping a bandage, and ping a medkit. I was like, I got a medkit and I got a small pot right here. I'll throw them on the ground and ping them. You go find a medkit, and then we split off real quick and did that, and then we went back to playing the game. It's a lot more fun. It feels like a group effort completing the battle pass.
Right, definitely incorporates the whole team, makes things much easier.
Yes, and I'm just hoping that we see kind of like that orangish discoloration that's all over the map kind of spread as the season progresses. That'd be really cool. I don't know. I'm really digging the vibe of this current season. And I like the fact that there's not a lot of licensed stuff right now. Like, it's a really goofy battle pass if you look at some of the skins and stuff. And it takes me back to like old school Fortnite, and I like it.
I was gonna say, like, I saw the skins, the fucking like old cartoony looking tuna fish, and then the fucking unicorn brony skin.
Yeah. Like,
Good
I don't know. I'm with it. It kind of reminds me of like, in the most recent season that it reminds me of is probably season 5, where like they had the main character, like, this one's Carnage, then back then was the Mandalorian, and then you had all the like unique characters that were exclusive to Fortnite. It takes me back to that, and I really like that because Fortnite's really good at coming up with like custom characters and stuff.
Yeah, like I still am interested to see like what licensing stuff they come with, because like I sent you earlier, it was like I don't know if it's real or not, but if it is, Fortnite's gonna be getting my money. But it was like a Fortnite like graphic, and it showed 3 new skins. There was like, I forget what the third one was. One was like an Anubis kind of inspired skin, and then just fucking Naruto standing there in his little orange jumpsuit. He's just standing there in Fortnite, 3D model and everything. I was like, this is either fan made, but if it's real, then Fortnite's gonna get my money. I'm gonna hit people with the Glock.
Naruto has been rumored for a while, so I feel like it's definitely within the realm of reason that he finally just drops.
I was gonna say, when he does, I'm gonna be dropping people with the Glock no jutsu.
Like, it definitely wouldn't surprise me. They definitely get my money for it for sure if they dropped it. But yeah, but I think outside of Fortnite, we don't really have a topic, but I kind of want to talk about Deathloop some more because I'm kind of really getting hyped the more reviews I see about it and the more I hear stuff about it. It's a really interesting game.
It's
in
very
many
different.
senses.
Like it basically seems like a high budget AAA roguelike, but at the same time it doesn't.
You know what it reminds me of? And we'll see, next week when we talk about it and review it here on the podcast. But what it reminds me of, and it's not a roguelike, because, the roguelike you reset every time. This kind of reminds me of something like Zelda Majora's Mask, where, like, you're on a cycle, and then it resets after so long. But you, like, complete the different objectives, and you get that kind of sense of progression the more you do in each cycle. That's what it reminds me a lot of, is like Majora's Mask, and the way you gotta like you reset the day before the moon crashes and all that stuff.
Right, because I mean the crazy part I find about is basically it's like you have little by little you have to keep planning out and progressing your run to take out 8 different targets basically within one day, and you have to do it either before the day ends or before the other assassin. Which that's the interesting part about this game that I've really drawn me in was the fact that you're trying to complete this objective, get out of this like time loop where every time you die you start the same day over and over, but then the one random factor is another player that's out to get you and basically stop you.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool because it can be an actual person versus if you're playing in offline mode, it's just an NPC. I think that's a really cool variable, and I'm interested to see how that plans out. I've heard, and this was something I was concerned about the more I watched on the game, I was like, man, are we gonna have to like keep like a mental note, or like maybe even take physical notes of like, this is what happens if I do this, and then you like piece together each loop to finally get all of like whatever they're called. I can't think of what they're called. The visionaries, that's it. You get the visionaries in the same place so you can actually kill them. But from what I've been hearing, it's not that way, where it's not necessary to take any notes to figure out one loop to the next, which I am really, really happy to hear.
Yeah.
And it's just a very interesting concept. Oh, there he is.
Yeah. It's very unique for this. Like I said, it does like have that roguelike feel, which every time you die, you start the day over, basically. The only thing I'm wondering is, like, do your abilities reset too, or is that something you keep? That's something I'm interested to see, because I can't remember if they said not.
I heard that there is like a type of currency that you can acquire as you play through it, and you can spend that on taking certain items with you through each loop. So the more of it you acquire, you can pick different power-ups or different guns, and then you can kind of have like a loadout of sorts each time you go through a loop.
Okay, so definitely somewhat like a roguelike, because there's like in roguelikes, as you play more and more, there's certain abilities or bonuses you can unlock that just stay permanent after each run. Like even if you die, you still keep that bonus for the next run.
Yeah. There's
so it sounds similar to that.
But I'm just I the way that they've kind of structured the story and the way that they've said, that your character remembers each loop and like he's aware of what's going on, like that the way they're going to progress the story in such a way, that's what's going to make it really interesting. I feel like not feel like a roguelike as much, and it'll just be curious. Obviously we haven't played it, we're not cool enough to get review copies, so
no.
So we'll have to really dive in tomorrow and get into it, but it's really interesting. But I think the interesting part is, for one, the reviews, because I'm hearing fantastic things about it.
It's getting like it's getting near to absolutely perfect scores pretty much everywhere.
I know it got a 10 out of 10 from IGN. It got a 10 out of 10 from GameSpot. Like a lot of reputable sources are giving this a perfect score. And it's definitely, from what I can tell already, it's going to be in the Game of the Year conversation when we get down to the Game Awards at the end of the year. But it's just, I was not expecting this game to be as highly like regarded as it is so far. Because Arcane has had good games, don't get me wrong. Like Dishonored is very beloved by a lot of people, but it's not a game for everybody, and it wasn't like a Game of the Year contender. But here we are with Deathloop, and it's getting fantastic reviews across the board.
Yeah, I know, and I think that just comes down to like we keep saying, like the unique concept and setup that it's going for. That you can't, like, if you think back, even if you do like consider it a roguelike, it's still pretty different than what any other game has done in terms of like the roguelike sense.
I'm keen. I'm very keen on picking it up tomorrow. It'll give me a reason to actually boot my PlayStation up regularly. I want to beat this thing. I've heard it takes about 15 to 20 hours to beat, which that's good length for me. I'm not big on like these 30-hour adventures and stuff like that.
Well, you gotta think that's probably like 15 hours, like if you able to get like, you know, good loops and everything like that. But it, like we said, there's that wild card and the other player trying to kill you, so who knows how long it'll actually take to beat it.
Yeah, but it's something I'm looking forward to. I've heard things. I'm a guy that likes platinum trophies, and I've heard the platinum is not doable in one playthrough because you got to change up play styles and like take out different characters in different ways. So we'll see if this is one I actually bother going after the platinum on. If I really fall in love with the gameplay and I really fall in love with the loop, no pun intended, I will go for the platinum. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll have to look at the trophy list when I get my hands on the game tomorrow.
I'll be interested to see like what it'll be like when you go in and say like go in to play as the other assassin to take out like the main guy. I wonder it'll be like from that perspective in terms of like story and gameplay.
I'm keen to see how that works. Because I definitely want to hop in, especially if I can hop in on my friends. I will definitely screw up your game.
I swear to God, if I see fucking Kneeckoh name pop up when I hop in on that, and I'm just gonna be like, this motherfucker.
Oh, it'd be so funny. But aside from God, you know, the actual premise of the game and, you know, the fantastic reviews, I think it's in an interesting spot as a PlayStation exclusive game because this is a Bethesda title.
Yeah, well, like Bethesda, technically, it's from one of their, you know, like other dead teams, Arcane Studios, you know, the guys behind the Dishonored games, but still technically a Bethesda game nonetheless. So that is very interesting.
It puts it in a weird place, especially with how well it's getting reviewed. Obviously, I know nothing about the story, so I don't know if they set it up for a sequel or something along those lines. But it's wild to me that you can have like especially right now the console war has been crazy this generation. It's been freaking
people
nuts.
Have not stopped one bit.
It's wild to me, and it's funny as hell seeing on, you know, Twitter people like, yeah, Xbox, we got Deathloop, we're playing Deathloop, it's gonna be awesome, you guys can't play it, and we're like, we just acquired them. Like, we'll play Deathloop in a year, right? And it'll be on Game Pass. But the funniest thing about it is, like, right now there was like some alpha footage shown off of Redfall, whatever that new Arcane game is that's coming out on Xbox, and PlayStation fans have been ripping it apart. Just tearing it apart, which makes no sense in the grand scheme of things because they're hype about playing an Arcane game on their console tomorrow.
Yeah, not a whole lot of PlayStation fans, you know, wake up with their brain cells every morning.
It's so wild to me that is a thing. Like, you're gonna rip on a company and be like, your game looks like ass. It looks, first off, it's an alpha build. Who the fuck cares what an alpha build looks like?
Yeah.
But you're gonna rip on a company and say their game looks like shit, and then tomorrow go give them money to play their latest game.
Makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Now, I will be curious. This is one thing. Obviously, Xbox is gonna be making some money off this game on PlayStation. So I'll be curious to see if they do decide to do, you know, a Deathloop 2 or whatever. If they end up being like, you know what, PlayStation, you guys can have the sequel. You know?
As I say, I wonder how the deal with that works. Like what kind of deal, if anything, like does Xbox get from like Deathloop sales and stuff like that? That's something I'm very curious about. but sadly don't have the resources to actually look into. But it is like interesting to think about nonetheless, because like what kind of deal would that be when yet you're exclusive, the company behind it got bought out by your competitor, so it's like, what, did they get part of the profit now, or how's that work?
100%, 100% Xbox is making money off this. I guarantee it. And like I said, I'm curious to see if Deathloop 2 becomes a thing. If they're like, ooh, we're going to let PlayStation have this exclusive, or we'll have this game, not even exclusive, or not. It's an interesting scenario we find ourselves in, where like they're going to build an audience. Obviously, Deathloop is timed exclusive, and it's coming out next year on Xbox. That's already confirmed. But
Right.
it's an interesting scenario where they're going to build this audience and this fan base on PlayStation, and then next time around, this game could never come to that platform.
It kind of reminds me with Bayonetta, because I remember that the first one originally coming out on PlayStation, and I think it came out on Xbox too. I can't remember, but then comes Bayonetta 2, and that's a Wii U Nintendo exclusive now. So it's very interesting to see how sometimes exclusives work out over the years, especially
Yeah,
with
it's
franchises.
just a weird scenario that we find. It's a weird timeline we find ourselves in, honestly.
Right. This is gonna be the weird podcast where we just like, games are weird.
They're weird. Video games are very weird. Like, I don't know. But yeah, so next week, Deathloop, we'll talk a lot more in depth after we both had some time to sit down and bust it out and play some. Very much looking forward to talking about it a little more in depth. But you brought up an idea about what else we could talk about this week.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of keen. You jokingly said Spider-Man 2 predictions, and I'm kind of with it.
Yeah, I was gonna, cause like I was thinking about, cause if for those of you who watched like our bonus podcast about the showcase, Spider-Man 2 did get confirmed coming out in 2023, and then when we talked about in the podcast, we kind of started like throwing out like theories of like what's gonna happen in the game, like how story plays out, what gameplay is gonna be like, and I was kind of just thinking, like, we're talking about this quite a bit. We might as well just throw this in like the main podcast too.
Yeah, we spent a good chunk of time talking about Spider-Man. It's mainly because Spider-Man 2018 and then Spider-Man Miles Morales are amazing. No pun intended.
Yeah.
They are amazing games.
Insomniac, I don't know what the hell's in the water in their offices, but keep drinking it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. And I platinumed both those games. I played Miles Morales twice. Honestly, I shit you not. When I think, what am I gonna play on PlayStation? Despite having the platinum and have beaten the game twice, I constantly find myself going, I could just play Miles Morales again, because it's so damn good. It's so good.
That and like Miles's gameplay is just like real fun, especially with like the Venom charges.
Yeah, the Venom stuff's really neat. I'm wondering if that's almost why they gave Peter the arms in Spider-Man 2. Like, we saw in the trailer that he's got the arms like the Iron Spider does. And I'm wondering almost if they're like, we need to give Peter another element like Miles has.
Well, see, like, the thing about that is I was kind of thinking is like Peter and Miles' fighting styles, even though they both have like essentially the same powers, Miles having a few more, their fighting styles are very different when you like look back at Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales. In Spider-Man 2018, a lot of some of like the crazy stuff you can do with Peter comes from like his array of gadgets that he can use. Miles, in his game, he doesn't have like as many gadgets, and the reason for that is a lot of his combat and gameplay comes from the different ways he uses his Venom ability, and then his also like stealth and camouflage ability. So I think that's where like the main difference is gonna lie with them, and that's why in that trailer they showed Peter with the spider arms to show like Peter's gonna be like with some of his stuff more gadget oriented, while Miles is still gonna have like his Venom powers and camouflage and all that.
And I like that, because I was wondering, because after getting the Venom powers, I was like, this is really cool, and going back to playing just Peter is going to feel really odd, and I wonder how they're going to do it. Like, obviously I would have played it, but it would have been like, it would have almost felt like it was missing something, So giving him the
Right.
arms, and maybe they're like nanotech, like the new Stark suit in the new Avengers movies. Maybe they're nanotech. So like only at certain points you unleash the arms and you can do new combos and stuff with them in that sense. Like that's my
I
prediction
mean,
with those. They're not going to be something
that,
that's always there.
I mean, they definitely could because like this is a Peter that's already been established as Spider-Man for quite a while. He's definitely like worked with the Avengers, so he's definitely probably worked with Tony Stark about doing some nanotech gadgets for his web slinging and all his web slinging heroics.
Yeah, it's. I'm excited. I'm excited to see the setting, especially because it is going to be probably the same New York. We had the same New York and Miles
More than
Morales,
likely.
and but what they did with Miles Morales, putting in at Christmas, putting up the decorations, it was a good way to change up the city without changing up the city. So I'm curious what they go and do about it in the Spider-Man 2 setting.
Make it Halloween. Gives Venom all the spook.
Yeah, I was honestly thinking that right now. I was like, put it as a holiday release, put it in like an October release window, and then make it Halloween. And with Venom, that's perfect.
Right. Now, in terms of like kind of like gameplay, like obviously we're gonna have both Miles and Peter, and here's how I think it's gonna play out in terms of like, playing as both of them. Now, you said before you never played GTA 5, right? Because it's just like not your gist.
Yeah, yep. Not my jam.
Okay. Okay, so you wouldn't know this then, but in GTA 5 in the story, there's three characters
Hmm.
that all pertain to the main story and they interact with each other and everything. So, but when you're just like, casually like in the open world, not really doing a mission or anything, you can seamlessly switch between those characters. And like what it does is like, say you're one character, say like in this, say you're basically Franklin in the city, and then just a couple button presses, you can switch to Trevor. And it's not something where it's just like you're in the same spot and all of a sudden your character model turns into Trevor. What GTA did is that when you switch characters, it would like actually zoom out and then actually go to wherever that character currently is, and you'd basically be in a whatever area that character is. Like you'd go from Franklin in the city to Trevor fucking butt ass naked in the mountains wearing a dress. So weird comparison, but I think that's what it'll be like in Spider-Man 2, where you'll be like Peter or Miles, and then when you go to switch them, it'll do like a scene transition to whatever the other character is. And then along with that, there'll also be, different missions. There'll be some missions that where you'll play as Miles, missions where you play as Peter, and then missions where you can play as either or, where you can play as either of them. Because that's how GTA was, and that's how I think it'll be in Spider-Man 2.
I I don't know. I don't know what I want is the thing. Cuz like I love Miles' character. I honestly at this point probably like Miles Morales more as a game than I did Spider-Man 2018. I just felt it was everything about Spider-Man 2018 but better. But at the same time, calling it Spider-Man 2, I want a continuation of Peter's story that has Miles involved, don't get me wrong, but I don't really know if I want to play as Miles. Like give me more playing as Miles in Spider-Man Miles Morales 2. You know what I mean? Like give me another Spider-Man Miles Morales game. And like I want it to be very clear which Spider-Man we're playing as in each game. I would prefer it just kind of be a similar situation to what it was in Spider-Man Miles Morales, where like Peter calls and like you hear Peter and you talk to Peter constantly throughout the game, but he's not necessarily like a playable character. And there were the missions where you played with the Tinkerer, and the Tinkerer would fight with you, and like they were like your ally character. I would love to
Right.
see that be Miles, and like he's there and he's whooping ass with you, but you don't play as Miles. He's like your sidekick scenario. Like he comes in when Peter's in over his head. Maybe he's swinging through the area. Like that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
I feel like doing it that way would kind of be doing a disservice to Miles if like one character is unplayable over the other. I really do think in this next Spider-Man game, they're both going to be like equally playable, have their own specific missions, but also have like missions where you can play as either of them. because it wouldn't seem right to like be able to play as one of them and not the other, because they're both like
See,
really well established Spider-Man.
I I don't know. They put themselves in a weird place with this because there are people like you that are gonna want to play as both. But for me, with it being Spider-Man 2, like it's not Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Like it's not Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's Spider-Man 2. So for me, it's like I want to play as Pete and I want to see that story progress. I don't want to. I feel like if you focus too much and try to do both characters, you'll take away from like what the main story is going to be, especially in this scenario where Harry Osborn's going to come back and it's going to be so focused on Peter that like the story is going to revolve around him. And I could definitely see a scenario, right? Because Miles is fairly new at being Spider-Man, where Craven comes in and he wants that, he wants that better hunt, right? He wants that hunt.
Right.
So initially he goes after Miles and Miles can't handle it. He gets caught. Craven's about to take him out, and then Pete comes in, and saves the day. And then Craven's like, "Oh, this was the inferior Spider-Man. This Spider-Man is going to give me the job, give me the hunt that I desire." Just because, not because Miles is any less powerful than Pete, but simply because Peter has way more experience at being Spider-Man.
Right. I'm also kind of curious, like in this Spider-Man universe, if like Craven is a new threat or someone Peter has dealt with already and actually knows. That's something I'm curious to see as well. Because in Spider-Man 2018, Doc Ock wasn't a thing until that game, and Dr. Octavius became Doc Ock, and Peter had to fight him. But there were still some other like established villains like Rhino,
Yeah,
Shocker, stuff like that. So I am
I
curious to
I
see on
think
like
I
what
think
Craven
Doc
would be
Ock was
like.
unestablished. I think that Norman Osborn will eventually become Green Goblin because that doesn't seem to be a thing yet. They haven't referenced Goblin at all, and I
I
think that'll happen at some point.
It'll
And
definitely
then
be like a surprise, or like in the when
yes,
we get a new trailer.
and then I think Craven is new because when he was narrating the new trailer, he was saying that he is yet to find a hunt that he desired. And would referencing Miles and Peter because they were like standing next to each other in the scene, he was like, "Will one of you be able to give me what I'm looking for?" So I don't think that he yet has encountered Craven.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another theory I have, like in a way that you'd be able to play as both Peter and Miles, is like, what if? I don't know how this would work out, but I trust Insomniac if this is a route they chose to go. Uh, what if it's actually, you got your story, but you choose to play as Miles or Peter for the duration of the game, and you basically experience the story from that character's perspective all the way through. And then you can hop in and play again from the other character's perspective.
That would be interesting, but I feel like it'd be
Right.
a lot harder to do. Obviously, I'm not a game developer. I'm just speculating, but I feel like that would be a lot harder to do. But the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think you're on the right track with the playing as both characters, simply because of looking at how they handled it with Ratchet and Clank and how easily they were able to do that.
Right.
I think it's definitely a possibility that becomes more likely. Now, I have seen people speculating online that this is going to be co-op. Fuck no, please. Don't
No,
do that.
no,
Please just don't
no.
don't don't ruin it. Okay? We got a good thing
It,
going here with good single player stories. Don't add co-op, please.
yeah, it shouldn't be co-op. If you want to throw in like a separate online like co-op thing where like you and a friend can like hop in and do missions, or who knows, even have like just a friendly fun web swinging race or something like that. That's fine, but don't make co-op like part of the main story. Just no, it wouldn't make sense, and I don't think it really worked for this type of game.
Yeah, I really hope that's not a thing. I really hope not.
Yeah, I don't think it should. But I'm very interested on what the story's gonna be like, because like we've, because as we've learned from the Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales, these games don't have a happy ending really.
No. They never do.
They really
Like
don't.
I both games almost brought me to tears. Like
I
the
was
ending of Spider-Man 2018 is so emotionally charged. Like when Pete finds
it,
out, and I don't care that I'm spoiling the ending because this game's been out so freaking long. That when
yeah.
Pete fights Doc Ock and he's like, he calls Peter by his name and he's like, you knew the whole damn time and you've done all this to me and you've hurt all of my friends and these people, and like it was like a betrayal thing because Doc Ock was like a father figure to Peter, and it was like a
Right.
huge moment, and it makes you, especially like when he goes to cure Aunt May and he has to save the city instead of saving Aunt May, and it's like a whole
Yeah.
moment in itself. And then I was like, there's no way in hell they're gonna be able to recreate that in Miles Morales, that sort of emotion. And then
Oh,
they gave us
but they
us
did.
the whole Tinkerer dynamic, being Miles' old friend from his childhood, and it's like, oh my god, I felt almost more emotionally connected to the ending of Miles Morales than I did Spider-Man 2018 because it was so personal.
Right, like with Miles Morales, like it got to, I can't remember when, but it got to a point where I was like really hoping she'd come around, but I mean she technically did, but by the time that happened, it was too late.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then like when everybody, like the news reporters were trying to get there and like capture pictures of the new Spider-Man, and then all the people from Harlem stood around Spider-Man and they were like trying to hide his identity. Like that was such a good moment, and I was just like, it was just so well done. Like I loved that ending. And both times I played through it, I almost cried. Like it wasn't like just the first time and the next time I was like, oh, whatever. No, I almost did it both times I played
Yeah.
through the damn game.
I was say it can get you, and that's just gonna make me think. You know, Spider-Man 2, it's gonna be just as bad. Like it's really gonna be just as bad, especially with the fact that this version of Venom, instead of it being Eddie Brock, is actually gonna be Harry Osborn, Peter's like friend, for like one of Peter's best friends, basically.
Yes.
There's no way that there isn't gonna be some tearful moments with that.
That's going to be really interesting. I feel with this game they introduce Eddie Brock, and maybe we get a Venom game.
Very possible. It'll be interesting to see, because so far we haven't seen any, like, we've seen, obviously, from the end credits of Spider-Man 2018, we saw, hints towards like Harry being Venom, but we haven't really seen any indications of Eddie Brock existing in this game's universe.
Which I see it going one of two ways with this game, okay? Obviously, we're seeing Venom. Venom is going to be Harry Osborn. I've got a very strong feeling about, because we already saw the symbiote on him in the tube. Okay?
Right.
I think we fight Harry, we defeat him as Venom, and Venom skedaddles. He's gone. He realizes that Harry is not a strong enough host to sustain him, and he skedaddles and gets out of there. But he merges with Spider-Man at some point in the game, I've got a feeling.
Oh,
but then
definitely.
after that whole arc, then he skedaddles, and we throughout the game get introduced to Eddie Brock, whether it be a similar story or if we just get introduced to him through another method, because obviously this game does not follow the super canonically the comic books. It's its own thing. It's its own Spider-Man universe.
It's basically its own MCU in a way, really.
Yeah, I could see them introducing Eddie Brock in a different manner, and then we get a spin-off game for Venom. We get its own thing where it's like Miles Morales size. We get to play as Venom. We get to eat people, and we get that back and forth with Eddie. Like I could see that being a thing.
It'll literally be like Marvel prototype game, really, if you think about it.
At this point, I don't see why they wouldn't do it, right? Because Insomniac's been killing it. Venom's similar enough to Spider-Man that they wouldn't have to change the formula too much. I think it's very, very doable to make an awesome Venom game and set it in this universe. And they're already killing it. And they're going to do Wolverine next. They already have such an established, ability to do these superhero games. I don't see why they wouldn't do something like that. However, if they decide to leave Venom alone, if they decide to not do Venom, I could see them introducing Gwen Stacy this game. And we get a younger Gwen Stacy, Miles Morales age, and we get a Spider-Gwen game.
Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting.
Because at this point, I don't see why they don't just establish their own Spider-Verse and have a whole series of game. Now, the question becomes, does that get too convoluted? Does it get too crowded? Do we have too much of the same thing?
Really, it kind of depends. Like, it depends on like where they go with this story. I mean, obviously, it's still gonna stay like in New York. We're gonna get Venom. We're gonna get Kraven. More than likely, we're gonna be getting Green Goblin. But if Insomniac, if there's any more games planned after this, and Insomniac say decides to dive into some Spider-Verse stuff, then it would at least make sense. But at the same time, I kind of get what you're saying. Like, would it be like too convoluted and start to feel like an old repeating record in a way, and keep introducing new Spider-Man and give them their own games.
Now, they could. Now, I don't. I hope it's a trilogy. I hope it's a trilogy. We get Spider-Man 3. I really do.
Yeah.
I could see them doing more. Like maybe instead of doing Spider-Gwen off rip, do the Venom game. Let Venom be his own thing. Let that be like the middle ground game between the Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, right? And then in the comic books where Miles Morales exists, Peter Parker dies. So maybe in Spider-Man 3, after he's trained Miles for long enough, Miles is really coming into his own, we get a game that pushes Pete to his limit, and at the end, Pete's gone. It's just the end. And then Miles takes over, and then the next game is Spider-Man. Marvel's Spider-Man, and it's Miles on the cover. That
could definitely be possible, but I can think of like a more like a more painful way to do it of Miles taking over the mantle. Now, the way I think Spider-Man 2 will end is not with beating Venom and the symbiote getting away. I think the final fight in Spider-Man 2, I don't know how the build-up will be, but I do think the final fight will be Peter in the black suit. The black suit's basically like warped and corrupted his mind to where he's basically not the same anymore, and we get a final fight between Peter and Miles. Miles is giving it all he's got. Peter's not holding back, and Miles is given no choice but to actually kill Peter. Like, not so much like that he wants to, but I could see being like in the fight where Peter kind of breaks free from the symbiote for a bit, and like tells Miles like do something to actually take him out, and that's what ends up killing Peter. And then that's how Miles becomes like New York's like the Spider-Man now.
I don't know. I don't think they kill Pete this game. I think it's gonna happen if the series continues. I think Pete eventually goes and Miles takes over. But I don't see it happening this game. I definitely foresee a Miles versus Pete fight. I do. And I definitely see a situation where Miles web zips onto some generator or something, and Venom shocks the shit out of Venom. And then that's how he gets Venom off Pete. That's my prediction.
Right. Now,
I don't see, because I think the final fight is Green Goblin. I don't think it's going to be. I think we get the different chapters, right? Because we had the chapters in Spider-Man 1 where we fought Mr. Negative, then we fought the Sinister Six, and then we fought Doc Ock, right? So I think the first arc is Kraven. We fight Kraven, then we fight Venom. Then during the Venom arc, we have the whole Miles versus Pete situation. And then finally, because Venom left Harry dies. He's not going to make it. That's one of the emotionally charged scenes throughout. And that sets Norman over the edge. He puts on the Goblin costume and goes after Pete.
It'd be kind of interesting. Like, not only would it set Norman over the edge, but like, if that were to happen and Pete still has the black suit, I can see that sort of sending him over the edge. And, and with his warped mind, he actually blames Norman to the point where like they're really start going at each other, to the point where like they're fighting so hard that they're actually doing such destruction to the city and putting people at risk. And Miles is like the third factor that needs to try and put a stop to both of them.
I could see where instead of Miles fighting before the Green Goblin fight, that Miles comes in and Pete beats Norman, beats Goblin, puts him down, but then Miles has to come in to stop Pete from really going over the deep end with the black suit. I could definitely see that being innocent.
Hello?
Am I back? Hello?
I'm all by my...
Hello?
Yeah, you're back now. You cut out for a bit there.
Okay. I could definitely see that being the scenario where, instead of Miles fighting Pete before the Goblin fight, that Goblin comes after Pete. They go crazy. They're fighting each other real aggressive because Pete's got the black suit. and then he beats Goblin, puts him down, and that's when Miles has to step in and be like, I gotta stop Pete from, keeping the suit and being part. And then beats Pete. We get the end. They're happy. They're like, they're recovering. The city's recovering, whatever. And then you get the post-credit scene where Venom finds Eddie Brock, and then I could definitely see that being the case.
Now, one like big swerve I propose is like, what if Peter isn't really the one that gets the black suit? What if it's actually Miles who gets? I mean, Miles already has a black suit, but Miles who gets the black suit, and it's just one complete swerve. Like, what the hell? Now you got Venom with Venom powers. Oh,
that would be kind of awesome. I didn't consider that angle, but that would be really awesome. I don't know if that would be as great as the grasshopper becoming the master scenario where Miles is the one to put Pete down in the black suit. But I think it would be really cool in the sense that you don't play as both characters throughout the game, and it is Pete's story, and Pete's like, I have to help my friend, I have to help Miles, and Miles is the one that has the symbiote, and like that could be a really interesting scenario because you don't see too much. The stereotypical Spider-Man story is Spider-Man bonding with Venom, not obviously there are adaptations where Venom bonds with Miles, but it'd be really cool to see it in this format.
I was gonna say, like, the symbiote like wants to be with Peter. Like, they see Peter as the perfect host. Now they could still see Miles as the perfect host because it could be because of that, getting bit by that spider and those powers. Maybe that's why the Venom symbiote is so attracted to Peter, and it could be the same reason they're attracted to Miles. But I could see it being like, if it really still wants to be with Peter, like Peter like offers himself to the symbiote just to get it off of Miles.
That could be, yeah. There's a lot of different scenarios here, man.
Really,
it's. I'm so ready for this game, and it's 2 years away. It's so frustrating.
I know, it's like those bastards. They did what every fucking video game company does that pisses me off, and it's like, show a game that's like incredibly hyped that we've all been waiting for to get announced, and it's like 2 or 3 years away, or doesn't even have a year date yet.
Yeah,
it's like, god damn it.
My next question is, do you think that we see Wolverine at all in this game? Because I think this comes out before Wolverine.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so too, considering, the Spider-Man 2 trailer, that at least had a year it's coming out, but Wolverine didn't have anything besides that teaser. Whether those two games, like, actually not so much tie in, but like maybe like Wolverine makes a cameo in Spider-Man or vice versa.
It doesn't even have to be any, like, you physically see him. Like, it could be like a news article or like something on the podcast that you listen to while you're swinging through the city, where they just something to indicate that there's they're like, they reference like there was an attack by a man with claws at a local bar, and like that alone would be really cool.
Or like even like one of those like cooler Easter eggs where like you swing into like what was reported as like a bar fight to go break it up, but then you get there and you see like a bar all thrashed, people are out cold, and then you see like claw marks all over the place, and then that's the reference you get, like, oh, these two games take place in the same universe.
Yeah, that alone would be super, super cool to see. Like, I'm curious if they end up doing a connected universe scenario.
I mean, honestly, fuck it. If you're gonna have anybody do a connected Marvel video game universe, just let it be Insomniac. Give them all the Marvel IPs. Cancel Guardians of the Galaxy, assign it to Insomniac, because they already got Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine on their plates. I'm sure they can keep going with more and just make them like the video game MCU guys.
See, I almost think that they'll eventually just do crossovers. Like, honestly, I know they say we're not getting like PS4's Spider-Man in Marvel's Avengers. Why the fuck not? Put him in there, right? Connect him to that universe. Connect him, because we've already seen stuff in Guardians of the Galaxy's promotional material that indicate that it's connected to the Avengers universe. Like, we've already seen that those two games are connected. So why not just put the white spider suit into Marvel's Avengers, connect that universe right there, and then be like, we have multiple companies working on our Marvel video game universe.
It's absolute mess. I'm getting flashbacks to like the start of the like actual MCU now with Iron Man, and then all the MCU movies to come on after that, and just this giant world being built with all these characters now teaming up and everything, and how we could possibly get that in some Marvel games. Honestly,
Yeah, it's exciting. It's very exciting.
it really is. Like it's funny how we went from like a time where like Marvel games, when you think of them, that's nothing like nothing really too crazy came to mind. Then fucking Spider-Man 2018 comes along, and then it's like I want every Marvel game possible on every Marvel IP.
Yeah, I'm so ready. There's so many things to be excited about. But I feel like that really wraps this bad boy up. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I would go on about. I would theorize about Ragnarok, but you still need to play that, so I can't really say anything yet.
Yeah, I still gotta play God of War. We'll get there. Once we have a firm date, I feel like we could definitely do another one of these speculation podcasts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, then you'll feel once there's like a date for that, then you're gonna feel more pressure to actually play and finish it, because then you'll have to actually have a deadline.
Yeah, but I feel like that wraps it up. We just kind of had a lot of stuff we were keen on talking about this week. No real specific topic, but I think it was fun nonetheless. Thank you all for joining us here. Go ahead.
Yep.
Did you have a thought?
No, it's just that it's literally like right at the end of this podcast, you're starting to cut out again.
Oh, great. Well,
I mean, what better timing?
Yeah, no kidding. But thank you all for joining and entering the chat with us. We will be back next week. If you enjoyed it, make sure you follow it on whatever podcast service, share it with your friends. Check out the YouTube channel where we post gaming stuff all the time. But like I said, that's all we got this week. We'll catch you next week. Peace.